All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Marlins 9, our third episode of this week. And today I'm joined on the podcast with Daniel Álvarez-Montes from El Extra Base, also a Baseball Writers Association of America member. Daniel, thanks for taking the time and being on the podcast.
No, thank you, man, for the invite. Pretty cool to be here. I know you set the bar very high with your guest and Joe, who is my mentor. I said he's my American father, and it's pretty cool to be here.
Joe's great. I love talking with Joe. Have him kind of do a series now every month, State of the Marlins, and he always has something interesting to say, and I love it. I love it. It's authentic him every time we talk, and that's what I try to do on the podcast is be authentic, just be myself, and ultimately as a fan, we're allowed to have opinions, allowed to critique the team, and in a season like this, Daniel, I think as a fan, as a diehard, it's one of these seasons that really make you question not your fandom, but question the direction of this team. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And kind of see the direction we're going if we agree with it. And it's been a season of change, a season of a lot of change, a lot of new faces, a lot of faces going out the door, new players coming in. But as we approach the final month of the season, where do you kind of stand viewing this organization as a whole?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough spot to be when you're coming out of a playoff winning season and then having one of the worst seasons in franchise history. Projected to lose more than 100 games is something that really nobody wants, but it's just the way it's going right now. At the same time, knowing that it is a transitional time from one uh, uh, front office to another, now with Peter Bendix as the president of baseball operations, you have to understand that these are tough process that sometimes have to be made. You obviously can question why last year's team wasn't backed up with more reinforcements or with more moves to try to make another run at the playoffs, like many people thought it would have been the best way. But obviously, they know their own numbers, they know what they can handle, and you also have to give them the benefit of the doubt and trust, or at least think that, of course, they know their thing. They've been in baseball for a very long period of time, and that they will try to do the best possible moves to make this team a winning team again in the shortest term possible.
And I think that there are a lot of new faces that bring excitement to the team, not only just a major league team, but the organization as a whole. There are pieces coming into the system that we just didn't have before
Correct.
to develop and watch for as fans. I mean, on the major league roster alone, Connor Norby looks like he can be something really good. Kyle Stowers is somebody where the peripherals, the exit velocity, the bat speed, if you want to delve into the analytics, there are statistics and metrics backing him up, you know? So for an
Correct.
offensively starved organization, that is really promising. Now, the question I have, and a lot of fans will have as well, when will this team be good again? You know, I mean, you're in the cellar of the National League East. In my personal opinion, I don't think the Marlins will be good next year. I think you could see improvement, depending how much improvement in terms of the record, that's to be determined. But the key for next year, in my eyes, and I'm curious to hear yours, Daniel, is what defines success, not only the rest of this season, but in 2025. Because for me, it's all about letting the young guys play. Let us
Mhm.
see what we have in De Los Santos. Let us see what we have in Augustin Ramirez, Norby, Kyle Stowers, these bats you acquired at the deadline over 162 games. So that's going to be really interesting to see from my perspective.
Yeah, 100%. It's. I think you nailed it. You want to see the whatever you can about those young prospects, but also what you have of what you've had in the team for a long time now. Like I think it's pretty good to see the second half, especially after the All Star game, everything that Jake Berger, for example, has been doing. Um, what a guy like Nick Fortes can give you behind the plate, guiding the pitching staff and knowing this pitching staff, and working closely with Mel Stottlemyre Jr. as the pitching coach, or Wellington Cepeda as the bullpen coach, and trying to give that message as well to a young pitcher. So there are things to be seen with Jesus Sanchez, for example, that can tell you where you can head with them, either on the team or trying to get them as much playing time to get the best value in a possible trade in the offseason or in next year's deadline, right? But to your point of giving their prospects their the best possible chance, I think they're doing it right with Norby, with Stowers. Last night, what we saw with Griffin Conan, I think it was special because he's been grinding in the minor leagues for several years now, and he's had to prove himself. So that's the interesting point for me. Success either this year and next year would be to see development,
Yeah.
because that is something that this team has lacked over the years. Not with the pitching side, because we've seen great pitchers coming out of their system. It seems like every single day or every single year. I think they have a rotation that it's not. This is not how it's going to look like in 2025. We hope, but you guys some interesting arms that you will be seeing next year as well. And but for the offensive side, you want to see improvement and you want to see development, and I think that's going to be a key, to see success from your young offensive prospects.
You mentioned Griffin Conine and how awesome it was to see him finally make his debut. Obviously the son of Jeff Conine and a second generation Marlin there. And really good game last night with the triple for his first major league hit. I mean, it was awesome to see. However, I do want to see another Marlin make his debut. He's been on the podcast before, Troy Johnston, who's worked so incredibly hard in this
Mhm.
organization for many years now. And I just want to see the Marlins give him a shot, and I'm really hoping it happens in September for him. I mean, it's every player's dream. So I really want to see Johnson up here and debut with the Marlins, but I just wanted to shout that out really quick. And then the second part I wanted to get into was the issue with Skip Schumacher. And not there's an
Mhm.
issue with him. I don't mean it in that way. It's the issue that uncertainty. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I have my opinion. I think he's going to leave. I don't think the Marlins would have made the information public about declining the option and all that with his contract situation if they planned on retaining him. What's your thoughts on that? Is it a done deal? He's gone?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a done deal now.
Yeah.
Something that for me it's very unfortunate because Skip's a brilliant guy. He's a brilliant. He's First of all, he's a great human being, a great guy to be around. A guy that it seems like on every press conference that we have with Skip, either pregame or postgame, or if you have any conversation off your record, you're gonna learn from him. And if we as media have seen that, I can't imagine how helpful it's been for other players to be around him as well, right? Um, we saw what he can do when he's given the right assets. Everything he did with that team last year and his coaching staff, that it's pretty good as well, with amazing people. But yeah, I think that's going to be difficult for him.
I think you muted yourself. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know
There you go.
where yeah, okay, where did it stop?
You were talking about Skip with last year and leading the team last year.
Exactly,
Eh,
like you saw what he did last year
Oh
with
yeah.
that team. So uh, that's why he won Manager of the Year. So when you see that, you see a guy that is capable of doing big things. That's what other 29 teams I think are seeing as well, and that's why I think several teams would be after him once he leaves at the end of the year, which it seems like it's what's going to happen. Because obviously every year we see 4 or 5 openings for a managerial job. There are only 30 of these jobs, and I'm pretty sure Schumacher will get one next year. Um, I think what was said at the beginning of the year, which was I think the wrong message to send. I don't know how that got leaked or reported, but when you're on a 0-8 losing streak, when you haven't won a game in the whole year, and news comes out that your manager, uh, I mean the team and the manager are not um, getting that option for next year, that's a pretty big punch. And I know there were some players who took it that way, not from Skip, but
Right.
from the team, and that's that's pretty discouraging. And that was, I think, the first indicative that this was not going to be a good season for the Fish.
I mean, it was a mismanagement from the beginning, from the get-go, promoting this season as something that it really wasn't at the beginning, where one eye on the future, one eye on the present. I felt that the front office essentially lied to the fan base and
Yeah.
made it seem as if they were going to try to compete again. I remember talking with Kyle Seeloff on Marlins radio on the podcast after last season, and we both were just amazed and excited at the culture that Skip had brought to the team. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to come into your first season, professional season managing in the MLB, and to bring that particular team to the playoffs, you got to hit all the right buttons because it was clear there were pieces that needed to be added. And so after 2023, you get bounced in the wild card by the Phils. And it's like, okay, looking on to next season, okay, great. We got an awesome manager, somebody who wants to win, who's established that winning culture. How do we build on that? And then, of course, we have the new front office. I think it was like 4 assistant general managers, obviously, Bendix as president of baseball ops. And like you said, back in April, okay, it gets out. Skip's option on his contract is declined. And to me, it's like, what are we doing here? Because if you want to build a winning culture, you have to have a winner in charge. You have to have that leader of men. And to me, Skip Schumacher was the perfect representative of that just because of
Mm-hmm.
what we saw last season. However, I don't think this would be the perfect fit for him as an individual, as a manager.
Yeah.
He deserves to
Yeah.
go
100%.
somewhere and win. Like he shouldn't be here for the rebuild as it sucks as it is, but I think Skip would be a perfect fit in Seattle, for example, or St. Louis. One of those teams that are more geared to win now rather than later in Miami. So I understand it from his
Yeah.
perspective, but not from the team's perspective.
I would understand if the team would like to build on that winning culture that he brought, because players bought into that message since day one of spring training. And I know that Skip met with them basically every single day of the offseason, was looking forward to meet with the guys and getting to know them. At least I know he did it with, let's call it the big guys on the team. I know he met with Sandy. I know he met with Jazz. He even met with Miguel Rojas when he wasn't traded yet. To give you an idea of what he was trying to do, and players bought into that message from the beginning. So obviously, you would. I mean, if whatever front office would love to have a guy like this and build around it. I just don't know why it would make sense for Skip to stay here, having to get beat up basically every
Yeah.
single night, like it's happening now. And as you mentioned, he's been on winning teams. He knows how it is to win a World Series, and then he played with the Dodgers, winning postseason. Um, Again, winning season again for him. Playing into the postseason. He was part of good San Diego teams that advance to the playoffs. So why would he would he
There's
want
no
to be
reason. Yeah.
in this position, right? There's no reason. But yeah, as I said, I'm pretty sure that whenever we get to that point in the off season, I know several teams could be after him because he's again he's an unreal guy, great human being, and he's just as good as a manager as there is.
I wanted to ask about Kim Eng because on Marlins Twitter, the Marlins fan base, there's a lot of people who criticize her openly, saying she was a
Yeah,
terrible general manager. She destroyed the farm system. And there's a lot of animosity towards her as an executive in a front office. And then there's a lot of, I guess, love towards Peter Bendix.
yeah,
And my thing right now with this is Peter Bendix, it's yet to be determined. I loved what he did in the trade deadline. I did. I thought with the direction they went with, he made the best of it and acquired some really good prospects and some quality players. However, we all know prospects are prospects. We got to see if they pan out or not.
correct,
Kim Eng made a couple really good trades that ultimately propelled this team into the postseason. And
correct.
instead of being praised for that, she's essentially torn down by a fan base that hadn't won anything in 20 years. And it's quite honestly a shame.
This is I'm glad you brought it up because I feel at least that it's what I can sense, and it happens with Kim, it happens with Luis Arraez, and I know,
Yep.
and some people can say, yeah, I might sound biased because I'm Venezuelan and I've been following Luis's career since he was 18, 19, playing winter ball in Venezuela. That's true. That's factual. It's not that I'm biased, but that I know him, and
Yeah.
precisely because I've known him and I've been following for almost a decade, I know what type of player he is and how hard he's worked. Well, with Kim, I can say that as well. And obviously, she was going to be measured differently um, because she became the first woman to have this job, and obviously that calls for more attention, for good or for bad. The same day the Marlins introduced Kim Ang was the same day the Angels introduced Perry Minasian, and there were tons of criticism towards Kim and the Marlins at the time, none towards the Angels, and the Marlins got a postseason before the Angels did, and
Yeah.
the Angels are right now are known for being a mess, right? So with Kim, I think she did a great job. As you mentioned, she made trades that maybe were not popular at the time, but trades that ended up being helpful to get this team into the first postseason in a full year for the first time in 20 years. Yes, I know, especially with the draft. I don't think the Marlins drafted well under Kim's tenure here. I don't think they drafted well under Mike Hill's last year as a president of baseball operations, for example. And I know that's not 100% on Mike. It's not 100% on Kim, as it's not 100% on Peter, because you have people that oversees those departments and have to do that job, because it's difficult for one person to be 100% putting his eyes or their eyes on the big league team, and at the same time AAA, AA, single A, Dominican Republic, scouting,
It's
development.
impossible. Yeah.
It's impossible. I think Kim didn't have the best people around. For example, DJ Velik, who was something that she appeared wanted to have back in the organization. I think DJ Velik did a very poor job here with the draft, and had a very questionable attitude towards it. And but that wasn't necessarily Kim's fault 100%, because he was even here before her. I think, and I mentioned this several times, I think the Marlins could have kept Kim and maybe promote her to a president of baseball operations role and have a GM overseeing what I just mentioned. But that wasn't what they wanted to do, and yeah, I understand that as well, because maybe as she made really good decisions, she made decisions that were not that good, and that's how teams evaluate. Um, and again, this is I think that wasn't good a good move from the team. I mentioned that at the beginning, but they're heading towards a different direction, and that's on Drew Sherman and the ownership group, and that's why now with Peter, well, yeah, it's up to fans to trust whatever Peter wants to do, and I think he's been uh, very clear, very straightforward from the beginning. That's something that I respect, and let's see what it brings. But all I have to say about Kim Ang is that she's a she's a wonderful human being. She's a wonderful woman, something I respect and admire a lot, because I come from a family with a woman in baseball. My mom has been in baseball for 30 years, and I know how difficult it is for them to establish themselves in this business. And what Kim has done for more than 30 years has been remarkable, and I respect the hell out of that.
Ultimately, it does come to the ownership. It comes down to the owner, Bruce Sherman, because it's his team. And when it comes to spending money, historically, this organization, the city of Miami, has seen how, I guess, cheap, for lack of a better term, the Marlins can be, because we've seen it over and over again. Count like rebuild after rebuild. World Series team wins, you tear it down twice. You have, I mean, the rebuild of 2012, 2018, all under, of course, different front offices and even different owners. With the first World Series, Wayne Uzanga, and then obviously Jeffrey Loria. It's been a constant cycle of change. So, I mean, you said it. It ultimately doesn't come down to Peter Bendix, and he's not going to be the guy responsible for the direction of this team. He's going to play a vital part, of course, with the decisions he makes, but it's up to Bruce Sherman to decide what direction he wants to take this organization. And it was made clear after the 2023 season they wanted to go in a different direction. They bring in Bendix, and you can't really cry over spilled milk. You have to make do with what you have now. As a fan, and for you, as a journalist covering this team, you can't go back in time. We have to keep moving forward. Um, and that's all you can do. I think that the direction of this team, if I can use one word, would be, well, this is going to be three words, but it's just going to be wait and see. We have to wait and see, because we could have De Los Santos turn out to be a perennial all-star and everybody's going to say Bendix is the greatest GM ever, or he could be a bust. Like, we don't know. So it's
Exactly.
just wait and see right now. But is there
And
anybody that, oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, go ahead and finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, is there anybody that you see in this organization, whether it's pre-deadline, post-deadline, any individual players that you're excited to watch for that you think could have something special in Miami?
Yeah, De Los Santos is one of them. I don't care if he
I
hit
agree.
30 plus homers in Reno, with the altitude and all of that. But when you have that type of power, that's always impressive, and especially in today's game. I love Jared Serna. I love him to that. I mean, it's something unreal how good that kid it's gonna be. I think he's gonna be very dynamic in whatever spot on the lineup you put him. He's gonna be really good. But going to what you mentioned with Bruce, we also have to be fair and say that he spent money
He did.
during his tenure, like the contract to Avisail Garcia, the contract to Gene Segura, um, the contract. You may want to criticize this as much as you want, but the contract to Johnny Cueto, to just to mention notable
Sandy
signings.
Alcantara.
Sandy Alcantara to an extension. I think the best extension in baseball, because when he's healthy, pitching 9 innings it seems like once a month or every 2 weeks, is the by I mean
No one else
undoubtedly
does it.
the best pitcher in baseball. Like he's the most valuable pitcher in baseball, hands down, when he's
Yeah.
healthy, because he's that workhorse able to do that every 5 days, right? Um, but the majority of those haven't paid out, and that's a reality as well. Avi, as much as it for me it hurts, because I know the guy and I've been rooting for the guy forever, but it didn't work out. And it's not that he didn't care; he cared a lot, and I know everything he went through, everything that he's going through right now as we're speaking, trying to recover from injuries, from injections, from treatments, from everything, because the guy did everything to perform. And it seems like when he was performing, um, it's when he got hurt. It happened last year after those series in Cleveland and Atlanta. The guy was on fire, got hurt. Last year he comes back, hits well for a couple of for a couple of games, gets hurt. This year it happened the same thing again, right? Like it seems like we were seeing the best of Avi during his time with the Marlins, and he got hurt. But that happens. Gene Segura wasn't a good player here. That happens, and he worked a lot as well. So it's not that he hasn't spent. Jorge Soler is another one. Solely
Exactly.
his first year wasn't successful because he was hurt. Second time he was crucial for that postseason run, but he wasn't offered a single dollar here, after 2023. Um, I think he kind of learned from that, and I mean Bruce, and that's why maybe he was looking for a new voice, or a new leader to put in front of him the best possible options to either sign, extend, or trade for. But I also have to say it's really difficult to make this thing work in Miami, when even when the team is winning, fans are not supporting as much as you would love to see. And shout out to the guys that are season ticket holders, or maybe that they're not, but they can go to as many games as they want. It's not easy in this economy. It's not easy in this city where we don't have the best public transportation. Where I mean, everything that we know, it's not easy, and I really applaud them. Um, but it's difficult when sometimes you have a big series coming up, and you see more Cubs fans or Dodger fans or Yankee fans or Red Sox fans or Mets fans than Marlins fans, and the players feel it, the front office feel it, we can feel it as media, and that's something that it's it's a it's always going to be a tough topic, because yes, there's a culture of winning, and then, as you mentioned, uh, tear the team down, as it happened many times. But also, when the team is winning, you would like to see some more support, and we haven't seen that from the fan base. Maybe the fan base have to. I mean, the fans, they have to. Man, yeah, we'll have to support a little bit more, but also the team has to reflect. Hey, what are we doing wrong? That every time that we're winning, we're doing this, getting rid of players, right? So that's always going to be a tough topic, and people ask me all the time, especially with the WBC and the Caribbean Series. Man, what a great atmosphere! If only we had this every day here in Miami, during the regular season. Yes, but it's not the same, and it's a mistake to compare that atmosphere and those games to a full season.
I mean, it's two different, completely different environments. It's one of those where you watch the WBC and you're amazed. It's incredible. I mean, you can feel the energy, the entire stadium you're watching on TV. You can feel it through the television screen. It's intense. And then you turn on a day game, and they're playing the Mets, and you think you're in City Field because it's all Met fans, like you said. And not only that, when you're on the road, I mean, I've seen the Marlins on the road. I'm one of maybe 5 Marlins fans that day, and I'm not even exaggerating. 10. Maybe I'll see 10 if I'm lucky in the stadium. It's honestly crazy how little of a fan base the Marlins have extending outside of South Florida.
Yeah,
And it's it's an issue when you look at South Florida as a baseball environment, as a community where you have a hotbed of talent, a hotbed of amateur talent, high schools, and a lot of pro players coming from there. But these guys, I mean, I was talking with Joe Frisaro. He sees them, he covers them. They don't even like the Marlins. They don't want to play for the Marlins, and that's an issue when that's your hometown team. That is an issue, and it's been a recurring issue for many years, and it's something that has to be fixed because it's unhealthy for the sport. I've seen it in Oakland, and now we look at what happened there. I'm not saying the Marlins are going to move, but it's an unhealthy environment. We want to see winning baseball, but we also want to see fans that care and fans that, you know, actively pursue this team as a passion and want to follow this team on the daily.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, again, it's part of the culture that you create in the city. For some reason, this team hasn't reached the same way to areas like Broward County, where there was a culture there because the team obviously was closer at the old ballpark. But it is about that, and to be constant and consistent. But it also comes with winning. It comes
100%.
with winning and doing the right things. Because I have to say, because I've covered several, and I mean several, multiple times, charity events everywhere in Miami, from Kendall to the Gables to North Miami Beach to Hollywood to Hialeah, wherever. I've been there covering as many community events as any other team in baseball. But it comes with winning, man, and creating that culture. And it's also a tough market because when you have so many people coming from the West, from the Midwest, from the Northeast, they have already their
Their
faithful
teams.
in
Yeah.
with their teams, with the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Giants, etc. And you have to battle against that. And yeah, you can do as much as you want in the community, but if you don't win at the end of the day, then it's difficult. And it's that cycle. It's hard to sign better players when you don't have the best TV contract or the best attendance, but also it's hard to have the best attendance or the best TV contract when you don't have the best team, and you need both, right? So it's that cycle that it never ends, and that's why it's so difficult to evaluate here, man.
Well, Daniel, I know you'll be there for it. I mean, I'll be here for it no matter what. Even if this team is bad, it's the dog days of summer. I'll still be watching. I'll still be following. I know you will too, man. And I want to thank you for
100%.
coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. No, thank you for having me. Thank you for following me, and thank you for your dedication as well. It's really cool to see um, the guys like you doing and putting all that hard work uh, to the this and yeah, man. Whatever you need, just let me know.
Awesome. And with that, guys, we'll be back for another episode soon, and let's go fish.